Guys, so happy to see you guys again. We do have a different visitor. Usually I know I have Danielle with me, but we commandeered Theresa over from the Limitless classroom and asked her to sit in and kind of help us work through, maybe if you're a first year teacher, parent teacher conferences, maybe this is something you've done for the fifth year and maybe you just need, to change it up a little bit. But this is going to go over some best practices of what's actually happening in the classroom with parent teacher conferences. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Sam. I am the content and product marketing manager for ClassTag, and I've been with ClassTag for about 3 years. One of those years full time, but before that, I was a previous 6 through 12 social studies educator, and then before that, 12th grade in the classroom with a bunch of seniors. So hopefully we can get you guys some good information. Theresa, tell us who you are and where are you coming from?
Yeah, I'm Theresa. I am from the Capital Region in New York, and I am a fourth grade teacher. This is my 13th year teaching, and I've taught grades 1 through 5. So I feel like I have a pretty good experience across the board of what those parent-teacher conferences look like. And I still remember, being excited, but also very nervous for my very first one. So I think this will give people a lot of good tips to get them feeling confident going into their parent conferences.
And we were talking a little bit before we went live about what's going on and the craziness that this year is. How's it going? What's going on?
It's a lot. And if you are watching, tell us in the messages, in the comments, because I'm sure that I am not alone in this, but it just feels like our teacher plates are getting so full. And, obviously we are very much still in a pandemic. So we are doing our best to kind of overcome, the challenges of this school year, which is, kids getting quarantined, students, teachers, children. And then, along with that, we also have a lot of shortages, I know, in my district as far as substitutes and busing. So I think it's just a tough year. People are doing the best that they can, but I know everyone's really just looking forward to the day where it starts to truly feel normal again. And I think a lot of us thought, we're getting our shots and we're wearing our masks, it's going to feel normal, and it's still a lot to overcome. So
is there any good things, like any little bit of sunshine coming in that you can kind of tell?
Of course, and I'm always so grateful in the fall to be back with my students. And I would say the most exciting thing this year, the kids are so excited to eat lunch together, which sounds like such a small thing, but they want to sit in the cafeteria with their friends and eat lunches. So we have everyone really spaced out, but that's like a huge highlight of the kids' day. I don't have students eating in my room anymore, so it's a little bit of a highlight in my day. And field trips are coming back, so that's very exciting. We can do field trips as long as we get, the busing situations figured out. So it's so great for kids to, get back to that kind of normal stuff. So those are definitely big rays of sunshine that we are very excited about.
That's great to hear. I follow education news, and I've seen a lot of this, shift from academic success looking like, numbers and, reading and writing, but we're starting to incorporate social emotional learning into that. And I'm glad to hear that that's what's actually happening in your classroom and at school. We're understanding kids probably need a little bit more support than just, hey, I need, I'll help you with some reading skills. We need more than that.
It's so important. And when we look at, these jobs around us and, people who are being successful, a lot of it is creativity and really fostering what students, what gifts they naturally have. And so absolutely, it's just as important to be fostering that, social emotional piece as well as that academic. So
which is the perfect lead into parent teacher conferences, because I think there was a period of time before COVID kind of hit that parents, you had your parents who were always engaged, but I feel like parents have started to become more engaged because it's more accessible. So apps like ClassTag kind of bring it a little bit more to the forefront, and needing parent buy-in is so much more important now because they could be quarantined next week. You need parents bought in. So it kind of brings like full circle, like parents want to participate in parent teacher conferences and they can do it virtually now, so they can show up. But what are some like big errors that might happen your first year of teaching, and especially during COVID, because this is very different than, when I was teaching at the very tail end of COVID just starting. What are some errors that might happen like as your first year teacher, especially maybe in virtual land when it's a little bit more different than we're all used to?
Yeah, well, you definitely want to make sure that whatever means you are using, that you're comfortable with. So for those of you who are doing a virtual option, which, when you are using the ClassTag app in order to do it, they can give you a Google Meet link. But, make sure you're really familiar with how a Google Meet link works. And that way, you can kind of troubleshoot and make sure that parents know how to access it. And I know for me, it was really helpful to walk the kids through how to get on a Google Meet so that if they were home with their parents, they could also show them, oh, here's where that link is. And, here's where you click. But I think one of the biggest challenges is, when you're newer, you don't always think about how quick 15-20 minutes is, which is usually about the time of a conference. And it's very short. And I didn't realize, my first year, how important it is to kind of give yourself some buffers. That way you're not feeling rushed and you can have these really great conversations with parents, but not be panicked if all of a sudden somebody's running 5 or 10 minutes late and you're booked back to back to back. It becomes stressful quick. Like, how can I fit this parent in without, causing other people to have to wait? So I think really being mindful as you're scheduling them, give yourself like 10-minute buffers every few conferences. And it will also just be nice for you to be able to look through your data that maybe you have with you, use the bathroom if you need to, but then you just don't feel stressed about how close together these conferences are. So I think that that's really important to do. And I think another big piece of it is just being really kind of organized. So usually going into the conference, I make sure that I have a binder with me and I put it in order of who I'm meeting with first and any data or work samples that I want to show the adults at home. I have just, neatly organized. So, we're not shuffling through things. It just feels very fluid. So I think that's a great thing too, is think what you want to share. That way you have it set up and ready to go ahead of time.
And one of the things that I've really enjoyed about my daughter's teachers is they do these like pre-conference forms. So you can kind of get your thoughts pulled together even before conference. Can you kind of, as a best practice, is this something you use, and what's been like maybe like the aha moment for parents, like the question that gets them to open up about their kid?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually have a resource on my Teachers Pay Teachers, and it's pretty much what you need to get ready for conferences. And one of them is a form that is for parents. And I love it because it gives you the opportunity to send it to parents ahead of time. So you really know, what are the parents looking for as far as the conference? How are they feeling about how the school year has gone so far? So I really think it's powerful to have that information ahead of time. On my end, it might seem like things are great, but maybe at home, like homework is a daily battle, and that's something I want to be made aware of. Or maybe a parent has a concern about whether or not their student is reading, a Just Right book, things like that. So that form that I use, it goes through like, how are you feeling about your child's school year? What are some, growths and strengths that you as a parent have noticed? Because I always love to see, like, on their end, are they noticing that their child's more independent? Are they noticing that their child is having more exciting conversations because they're enjoying school? And then I also have on there, what are some like comments or questions, concerns, and those could be about, our schedule. How does our literacy block run? It could be as simple as, my student wants to join band. Where do they get the form? But it really just gives parents an opportunity to to think, not on the spot, but ahead of time, of what are some questions, things that they have. And so then I'm also able to gather information for them. So I know a lot of times I'll have parents who express, I'm interested in maybe a tutor or giving my child more support. And then I can, at conferences, have the name and number of somebody I would suggest. So it's really powerful, I think, to give, parents that form ahead of time. And then on the students' end, I do a similar kind of thing where I have them really reflect about their year so far. So, what are their improvements that they have made? And I always love, some of them are like, I don't spill my breakfast when I come in the morning. I can tie my shoe now, but there's others that are like, I'm not embarrassed to read out loud anymore, or I feel like I'm getting better at my math fact fluency. So that's really nice to have them reflecting. And then I also ask them, like, what challenges do they feel they are still kind of overcoming, so that it's something I can be more mindful of, to support them. And then we usually always set some goals for, academics, but also for behavior things that we can work on. And I love sharing that information with parents as well. And the students know, like, oh, your adults at home are going to see this. And it's really, really helpful. So we do a lot ahead of the conferences that I think make the conferences very, efficient and focused, and really has, parents leaving like they got the information that they came for. So I think it's really, really a good thing to do ahead of time.
I love it. And I know, as a parent and as a teacher, that being able to like sit down and really think about like what works at home and like what tools can I help give the teacher, knowing that my daughter, she's special needs, and she's not quite super verbal. So, any kind of news from teacher is always really exciting for me. So if she's like, has a friend, I love hearing about it. I love all those, like, just those little things, right? That she can type in her lunch number all by herself. I mean, small gains. Like, I know as a parent, I love hearing about that and being able to like, hey, what's going on outside of my four walls? Like, what's going on? And how can I better support her at home? And how can we work through, if she's having a certain challenge with, behavior or something, how we can work
absolutely.
through that. So great.
Yeah. And some of that stuff's not always easy to think of on the spot. So I do just giving parents, that time to really think ahead of time, I think just makes it, really, it just gives them time to think what their questions are. And so absolutely.
And I think that not all parents are like teachers where they're like, oh yeah, behavior, like let's check the box, like we track behavior, we track things. Yep. I don't know if all parents are like that. So it's kind of cool to be like, as a parent, I know, sitting down and being like, okay, what does my kid actually really, do all the time?
They're not like me. I'm like looking up the standards, like, okay, she can do this.
Right. Oh yeah, this is good. She has the skill set. This is,
yep.
So I always have a good chuckle about that as a, parent teacher, you kind of battle with both sides in your head a little bit. But and those who are, joining us, and maybe you're joining us tomorrow or listening in tomorrow, feel free to drop in comments, ask questions. We do man the chat for a good 24 hours, 48 hours afterwards, and we love answering questions. And if you have a question at Theresa, I'm going to let you kind of drop in your Instagram and all that. Where can we follow you, by the way?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time, on social media, a lot of time following other educators, but my account is The Limitless Classroom. And I post a lot of my content on Instagram. So I'll share resources that I'm using within my own classroom, and also resources that I'm seeing other teachers use, that I just think are really great ideas. So I'll, repost some of their content and share their ideas as well. But yeah, The Limitless Classroom. And I also will be on the lookout, for the comments on this Facebook Live. So if people have any specific questions, and you're watching this after the fact, definitely put them in the chat and we can come back, and answer them for you.
Yeah. And we have, hi, Sheila and Stephanie. We do have some people saying hi. I love when they join from YouTube. It makes me so excited because we started on Facebook and we've kind of bled into other channels. And it's exciting to see people from different platforms at work.
I know. And Stephanie, you could not be more accurate. Never a dull moment. I don't even know about middle school. I feel like it's not even dull in, fourth grade, but I hear stories.
Middle schoolers, and a lot of my time, my 5 years in teaching was mostly 12th graders, in the building, but I loved 7th graders. They're like the perfect, like they're still so sweet. My 12th graders were super sarcastic, which is great too. It's just a very different. It was cool going from 12th grade to 7, and then having a bunch of 7th grade civics kids. It was a lot of fun. So Theresa, during, you kind of told me how you organize and get ready for conferences. During conferences, is there any great best practices on, getting parents to engage or talk to you? Or is there anything that you do to kind of even break the ice? Because some of them maybe have not even talked to you at this point until this point.
So we actually, in my district, which I love, we're very much encouraged to be reaching out right from the get-go at the beginning of the school year to, communicate with parents and get them feeling comfortable. But I actually think that ClassTag has a lot to do with, our attendance that we get, because for families that maybe have multiple kids at home and lack childcare, now being able to have this virtual option that we can push out to them is so helpful. But I found that last year when we were virtual, which was actually for 7 months in my district, I had the best attendance for parent-teacher conferences that I have had in 13 years. And I think a lot of that has to do with, honestly, the way ClassTag's parent-teacher conferences is set up, because parents were automatically, getting sent reminders and alerts. So they were remembering time slots. We weren't relying on, a small paper that might be crinkled up with, spilt milk on it at the bottom of a bag.
So true.
They were getting these reminders, when needed. It had a link right there. And I also really love that parents felt comfortable changing their times if they needed to. And that was really a struggle when we were just sending home, paper signups, because a parent maybe needed to change their time, but didn't, felt embarrassed, didn't want to call. And then all of a sudden you would just kind of have these no-shows. And I know for me with 2 little kids at home, you feel like you're giving up your family time, to be there, that you really want to make the best use of your time. So I think by scheduling them with ClassTag and parents being able to easily see their times, getting those reminders, and switch if they need to without having to call a teacher or do anything, I think is just so convenient. And that convenience allowed us to have such a great turnout for our parent-teacher conferences, that, I'm expecting the same will happen this year too.
Right. And, I've seen a lot of research come out that parents are really excited to engage this year. And probably excited is probably the wrong word, because they're probably like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have gone to a parent-teacher conference 3 years ago before COVID, but now I'm like teaching my kid like half the time. So I'm going to show up. And also, we were talking a little bit about virtual conferences, really meeting parents where they are. I know some, if you're a single mom and, you have 2 kids, like, do you bring your kids? What do you do? Even especially if you have like a baby at home or something, like there's these situations that are real. And there's a virtual solution to it, and we figured it out. So it does help, I'm sure. And for those of you that maybe are joining us, and this is the very first time you're joining us ever, we did have a whole entire virtual session last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, with Danielle, and she walked us through how to create parent-teacher conference slots, and how convenient it is to add Google Meet as like the platform you're going to use. So everything's like right there. So feel free, I'll drop the link in the chat. Feel free to check out that video too, to get the nuts and bolts of how to use ClassTag for your parent-teacher conferences. Theresa, I'm assuming it's real easy.
It's so easy. Honestly, I actually presented at a professional development over the summer to my district, and it was all about using ClassTag. And when I showed everybody the step-by-steps, just like the video that, everyone can go and check out, I felt like I was blowing people's minds. They're like, this has been here? I'm like, yes, you need to be using it. It is so easy. And I love that it tells you exactly how many slots you've created. So if you have 26 students and once you reach 26 slots, there is enough, one for everybody. It could not be more convenient.
That's great to hear. Yeah. And, rounding out this conversation, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, I love coming on and chat with you, Sam.
I love chat. For those of you that I've done these for like 3 years. And, you kind of get used to like, I see you every year. It feels like, it's like I saw you again this year.
Yeah, it's like our annual hangout. I love it.
It is. And, like the resources you bring to the table, for those of you that haven't clicked the link that I dropped in the chat, you really should, because your resources are fantastic and super helpful. And we've gotten quite, I think you still hold the record of like the most watched video in our entire live series ever. I think
hopefully I wasn't doing something silly in it. Who knows?
No, it was great. It was, remember the crack the code.
And, the crack the codes. Yes. We actually just printed off all of our October crack the code. So if you follow me on Instagram, the Limitless Classroom, you'll see lots of pictures that are coming up on all the fun we'll be having.
And tell us if you're joining. It doesn't even matter if you're joining 9 days from now. We don't care. We love it. Let us know if you're coming over from Theresa's Limitless Classroom channel. Like, we'd love to. Yeah. We love getting you guys. We love.
We do. I always love knowing where people are from too. Like I found that there was an educator who I frequently communicated with, through messaging and Instagram, at a school district like 2 districts over from me. I couldn't even believe it. It was so close. We had no idea. Yeah.
And I live in Florida. So like everyone, if you live in Florida, I'm like, I probably live near you because I live in Central Florida. So I love hearing like stories. If I see, and this is funny, but if I like see like a user comment and I know they're like, I'm from Florida and I'm from like town. I'm like, I'm like 2 minutes away from you. It gets me excited. So is there any like anything else you'd like to share, or any kind of parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would just remind teachers, not to be nervous, that, parents are expected and, excited to just come and get information on their children. And, sometimes I think we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves, but, sometimes they're just as nervous, as we are, and they just want to know that their children are being supported and encouraged, to do their best every day. So, it's just great once everyone can meet, whether it's virtual or in person, and have those conversations, because it really does take a whole village to get these kids to where we want them to be. So don't be nervous. Know that the parents are on your team, and they're going to be excited, to hear about how their student is doing in your classroom.
Perfect. I love that advice. That is like the perfect, especially as a parent who was also scared at my very first parent teacher conference with my daughter's teachers. It's like perfect advice.
I know. My 5-year-old, I'm like, I hope she's raising her hand and not talking too much, but she takes after her mom.
And my kid, I'm like, oh, I really hope that teacher isn't mad at me. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you, Theresa, for giving us your time. And I hope you guys I hope as a former educator and just as a mom, teachers, take some self-care, and hopefully you get a little bit of a break, a fall break or something coming up here soon.
Absolutely. And definitely check out that video, the step-by-step on how to set up the parent-teacher conferences through ClassTag. I mean, once you do it, I'm telling you, you will never go back to another way. So definitely worth it to check that out.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.